So R is a language used a lot by statisticians and researchers. It's been very useful because of its abilities in solving statistical problems. Um, so most researchers either use Python or R, but R has an advantage over Python because of its modeling to tackle statistical computing. What happens with R is in R, you can do a lot of vector work and you don't have to do a lot of loops. So it gives it more advantage. I'd like to share with you, take you on a journey that allows you to learn the language R. So if you are here to learn R, then you are in the right place. And the truth is, I will make it as basic as possible. So if you've never learned programming in any language, there's the right place to be. I will start with the basics. We'll go through the introductions and we'll pick it up. Along the way, if you have any questions, you can comment and then send me your questions via email as well, which I'll share with you. I'm open to listening to your feedback, and also if you feel there are things that you could share, cool. I'm open to learning that with you. So we'll go on a journey, and usually in 12 weeks, you should be able to learn R. I've structured the program such that 12 weeks is just like 3 months. And each week, if you pick up 2 lessons, you should be able to learn. Some people can even pick up more than 2 lessons a week. So that depends on the pace and the speed at which you can move. Now let's talk more about R programming and what sometimes we'll have to go through in the course of the 12 weeks. So in the course of the 12 weeks, we'll go through an introduction here, introduction to RStudio. Then we'll go through the basic data types and operations. And then we'll move to working with data structures. Now, these are, let's say, the fundamentals. The first 3 weeks are the fundamentals. If you've never learned any programming, then you shouldn't miss this week because these weeks contain the basic, the foundations, which you will be building other stuff on. Now, when we move to week 4, that is like the intermediate. So you get the foundations right, then we start building on the intermediate, which will work with data manipulation with bplayer. We'll move through how to import data in week 5 and how to export data. Then in week 6, we'll look at how to clean data and how to process data. Then in week 7, we'll do exploratory data analysis. And week 8, we'll advance with data manipulation, data visualization. So we'll go along the way till week. So let's say till week 8 is like intermediate. Then as we move to week 9, again, we see another shade of blue. That's like the finalizing of things. So we'll finalize things with week 9, and then we'll go to control structures in R. Week 10, functions and apply family. Then week 11, we'll go to introduction to statistical analysis. That is where the juice is. And then week 12, we plan to do a project work. So it's going to be more interactive. If you follow through these weeks, within 3 months, you should be able to do this with me. My email is shown on the screen. My name is Nanayao Kwamwa, Meghanian, and I reside in Accra. So, and my email is nanayawekwamwa@gmail.com. Do you have any questions? If you have any feedback, if you need resources that you would like to learn more resources and more pointers, you can shoot me a mail anytime. And I promise to be as accessible as possible. So this is going to be our roadmap for the next 3 months. you join me, it's going to be an exciting journey. You'll have fun along the way. And I promise you that some people have an anxiety towards programming. They hear programming is difficult. But we'll make it so easy to understand. We just have to pull along with that. So let's get into the introduction of R, how to use R. Now, R has been a popular language with researchers because, when you gather data, you need to analyze the data and then show it to your stakeholders or your people who buy in funding or who buy it in and then fund your projects for you. R does that easily. Makes the programmers work very easy and you're able to visualize the data for everyone. And this has become a more popular tool because it's easier done in R than in Python. In Python, you do a lot of work in AI, which sometimes it's easier that way, but it's not more geared towards statistical analysis compared to, although the Python has pandas. Pandas is a package which you can install in Python and it helps you do more data analysis. However, R is designed solely for researchers and not researchers per se, but statistical analysis. That's how it is. And so first, for you to get the R program, you have to download the R programming language or the core of it. Once you download the core of it, then you can move on to install what we call an IDE. An IDE is like what the full meaning of IDE is, integrated development environment. It's like an environment within which you play or within which you write your code. Now, when you install the R, it will give you a basic interface. And you want to do much more in the language, then you need to install the IDE as well. The IDE we are going to choose is RStudio. RStudio. And we will install R, and then we then come to install RStudio. And for people who are in the foundations, let me take you through how data analysis, the process is like. So the first thing is you go gather data from wherever, whether communities, from residents of a place, from your employees, you gather the data and they can give it to you maybe through questionnaires or direct interviews, or they can fill a form online, then it goes into your database. Once you collect the data, you have to refine it for analyzing because sometimes there are one or two errors that need to be cleaned up. So we call that process cleaning. You clean the data, then you can now put it in a software that allows you to analyze the data. Why you need to analyze the data? Because the data in itself, it's like the ore of gold. It's in its raw form. But for you to get insights from the data, then you need to analyze it so that you can get insights from it. It can give you some information which will help you make decisions faster and more clearer and make more quality decisions. Because at the end of the day, the decisions you make are going to cost you. If you make the wrong decision, that means that you might be spending your effort, your energy, and your resources, which may be money, in the wrong place, when actually you need to be spending in another place. And for you to be clear on that decision, the data will help you do that after you've analyzed it. Now, why we visualize data is visualization of data is like putting in the format, a graphical format that everyone else can see and say, oh, these are the charts. They can make meaning out of the data, the totals. So if you collected, let's say, data from 10,000 people, it's not easy for everyone to go through each record of the data and then make a decision on it. But if you really put in the graphical format and give a snapshot of it, that makes it easier for your stakeholders to look at it and say, okay, well, according to our pie chart, 60% of the people say they like this thing. So we have to implement it this way. And 70% say they don't like that. So we have to do this. So that graphical format is what we term as the visualization of data. Now we visualize data because you are going to sell your ideas to stakeholders. And the stakeholders might be your funders, might be your students, might be your bosses, who you need them to buy into that idea that, okay, well, these are my findings, and this is what I think will help if we implement. But for them to buy, they need to see the data in a representation, which is the visualized data. Now, when that is done, then your statistical analysis too can give you some important details, the demographics that will help you make decisions around that. So that's why we need to visualize data. It's very important. It's very important. Um, so in the week one, that is what's going to happen. We are going to um, do the introduction to R as a programming language and to RStudio, the R ID we'll be using. Now, first, let's look at what is involved in installing R. First, we need to go to their website and then download R. Okay. So let's talk about why we are choosing R as a language. Amongst all the languages, there are several programming languages, tools that you may use. Some may use SPS and some may use Python. But why do we prefer R? First, it's free and open source. The open source means that no one owns the software. Anyone can plug into it. And then, according to the license, develop stuff for it. And it's free to download. So it means that you don't have to pay for the software. You don't have to pay for the software. And it's designed for statistical computing and graphical representation, which I spoke about in data visualization. Optimize is also optimized for vector operations, which is very important because you are dealing with large amounts of data. You need to go through as quickly as possible to get your insights. So this makes it a preferred choice in data science. And it also has a great community. The community helps. The community is like more of like the people who use R and they contribute to R. And there are lots of statisticians, there are a lot of data scientists, there are a lot of programmers in there, there are lots of student researchers who all use R. So when you are stuck and you need information, you can contact one of them and then it gets you in there. And there are lots of packages. We'll talk about packages. Packages are like third-party developed plugins that helps you do more with R. So you're a developer and you have the ability to build maybe a small functionality in Python. You can develop it as a third-party package, and anyone can download it and then use it for themselves. So let's say you build a framework that is able to do some specialty data. Then you use it for yourself. You feel, oh, it's good. You can upload it as a package. Then anyone at all can also, who has a similar problem to what you were facing, which drove you to build that functionality, can also download it. So that's one of the blessings which comes with R, because there are lots and lots of packages which can solve a lot of problems for you whenever you run into some. So it's very useful. The package community is very useful. And there are lots, so many packages that you can download. And so let's look at setting up R and RStudio. And R itself is the language, the core of the language, the GNU of the language. So for every language, you have to install the language on your computer. Then once you install the language on your computer, you can install what we call an IDE. An IDE is like an integrated development environment, which allows you to play more with the language. So the core is the R, and the core can be downloaded from cloud.r.studio.com. r-project.org. So remember, it's not rproject.org, r-project.org. R-project.org is the website for the official website for our language. So that is where most information, and you can download the R language from there. So let's take a look how it looks like. So this is how the r.project.org looks like. The logo for R. As soon as you come to the site, you see download and install R. Okay. So if you are, it depends on your operating system. What you select here depends on your operating system. If you use a Linux, which is the Debian, the Fedora, Red Hat, then you can pick this one, click download, and it will take you there to download your version of R. If you use a Mac OS, that is an Apple computer, then you can click this link. You use a Windows computer, then you can click that. So it depends on the PC you use. I use a Macintosh, so I click this one, and it takes me to the packages. They say that, oh, there is this package here, there's that package here for older Intel Macs, for Silicon Macs. So that depends. And if, let's say, you use a Windows PC, you can click on this. Then you say install R for the first time. Then you can quickly do that over here. Once you click on for R, it will give you the version to download. Then you can download that. You use a Linux to similar approach. So once you download and you install the language, you should find that if you go to your desktop, you should find this icon installed there. That is the icon for R. Once I hit it, a new terminal should open up. Okay, there's the terminal for R. So we call this side the console. And that's where you sometimes write your scripts. Your scripts are your codes, which you write for the language. So you can input any code, and it's giving you that if you type this, you get a license. And remember, the version of R is always written here. Depending on when you see this video, your version might have changed. They might have updated it. So currently I'm using the 4.4.2, which was the last updated was 24th October the 31st. So, and it's called the Power League. Depending on when you see this video, they might have new improvements and the version might change, but it's the same R. Okay. And if you want to enter anything, this is where you do that. This is where your script goes. So it says if you enter this, you give the citation, you enter contribution, you give the contribution. So contributors, bracket open, bracket close, is an inbuilt function that displays the contributor. So let's try that. Contributors and hit it. Then it brings us people who contributed to building R. So their names are here. And sometimes it is helpful because you can go on social media like LinkedIn and other places and try and then look for such people and add them and follow them so that if they share anything, you also have a feed on it. And you can do a lot with this. So let's write a simple script that adds two numbers in R just for examples. So let's say my first variable is called Nana. A variable is anything that can hold data. So I give it 3. My next variable is Yao. So I give it a value of 4. And I say that Kweku or Fred should be equal to, the variable Fred should be equal to the sum of these two variables, Nana and Yao. Nana and Yao. Now it sets the sum to the value of Fred. Okay. When I come to Nana, Nana has a value of 3. When I come to Yao, enter, yeah, has a value of 4. When I come to Fred, because Fred's value is the sum of these two values, Fred's value is the sum of these two values. So this is just like a demo on how the R, after you have installed it, after you go through the installation process, how it looks like. So now let's quit it. Don't save. And then we are back. I just wanted to demo something. And then we continue. So after you have downloaded your R, which we have, that screen, that logo, that R logo, after we've downloaded and installed it, then we can decide to install what we call an IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment, which allows you to do much more, enhanced version of the R. And so that's the screen, and we can find this IDE over here. And the RDE is called RStudio. The RDE is called RStudio, so we can pick, and first it says number one, do what? Install R. Then come and install number two, come and install the RStudio. So that's the order. You can't install RStudio without installing R. Okay. So RStudio is just the interface that plays with the core of the R. So if you haven't installed that, then you have no business. So you see the size is this, then you can just pick it. So because I'm using it detected my Macintosh. So you are using a Windows, you say download for Windows, yes, or download for, depending on the operating system you use, to detect it and then give you that version of RStudio. And this is how the RStudio looks like. So RStudio looks like this. That's how the interface when you install it is. So let's say I want to create my RStudio. I use Q to no. I used Q to create my RStudio. And after I've downloaded, I should see this RStudio icon on my screen, and I can pick it up. So I'm launching my RStudio now. The RStudio, like I said, is an IDE. An IDE is like an interface which allows you to play with the core of the language, but has more enhanced features. So with the IDE, you're able to see your environment, the things, the variables that are going on later, that are going on in your space. You're able to see the history. Really the history of things maybe I was typing. Record the history. You're able to see your connection. You're able to see the files. You're able to pick a file and load the file from here. You're able to see plots, which is very important because for data visualization purposes, as I spoke about earlier, you might need to. But then you packages, what I was saying, packages are things that are developed. So there are two types of packages. There are third-party packages and there are the packages which come with the installation of R. This is a base package which comes with the installation of R. Data sets also comes with the installation of R. So there are some packages that are already, but other packages you have to download them online and then you use them. So this is how the IDE looks like. Initially, we did something interesting we can do the same thing here. We can decide to do the same thing here, but let's look at how this interface works. So let's say with what I did initially, have a value called a variable or a container that holds this value called Nana. Have another called Yao. Then when I enter Nana, it brings me the value for Nana. When I enter Yao, it brings me the value for Yao. I say, okay, the value of Fred should be the sum of Nana and the sum of Yao. Then, so there's a new container that holds the sum of these two values. So it's called Fred. When I type out Fred, Fred is now 7. However, when I come to my environment, let's see. The values I created are all recorded here. So with a snapshot, I can just go with a glance, I can go through the variables I'm playing with over here. Even though I might have written maybe 10,000 lines of code in this site or in my console, so I can just go through this and claim, okay, I created this variable. We usually call them variables or the values or container that holds it. So the name is variable. Like it's a value that it's a container that holds a value for you. And you can retrieve that value whenever you need it. So that's the way we'll be using R. But there we will spend a lot of time in the ID. That is where our programming is going to go. So that's also a demo with the ID, which is RStudio. So after we remember that the first process is download your R first, then you download the. So you download this, install it, then you download this, and then install it. Then it works. Okay. So first install your R, then RStudio first. Then the interface of R and RStudio, which I just gave a snapshot of. So this is just an introductory version of the videos we'll be doing. And thank you for staying with me. Hopefully, in the coming weeks, we'll be going deeper into writing more code and trying to understand. But I will be as basic as possible. Even if you haven't written code before, you can learn with. I'll be as basic as possible. Make it very understandable. And demystify that thing people say programming is difficult. No, it shouldn't be. Shouldn't be. Just like any other language. Shouldn't be. So we'll take our time and then go through each concept one after the other, as I explained over here. So the first week, week one, we decided to do introduction to R, why people use R, and install R, RStudio, then the interface overview, then basic syntax. Like syntax are the rules of the language. Okay, so just like any other language in English, they say, okay, if you have a subject, if you have a verb, you should have an object. So in another language too, they'll say, okay, there are similarities. However, maybe the order might even be different. So let's say a language like German and a language like English, they have a subject object, but the order of things are different. And that's the syntax or that's the rules of the language. If you get it right, then when you communicate, another person who speaks that language understands you. In this case, you'll be communicating a lot with your machine or your computer. So your computer needs to understand what you are saying. And if it doesn't understand, it will give you, it will flag an error. That's, hey, I can't get you what you need, or I don't understand what you are asking me to do. And the console, you see, the console is where you type your scripts. Yeah, your scripts. So that's what we decided to do. I'll just, before I conclude, I'll give you just a snapshot of the R. Okay. So why people use R? So let's see. So R is designed more for statistical analysis, and it's helpful. It's even used more than Python. A lot by researchers because they gather data in order to come to their conclusions and in order to come to their findings and inform community or inform society. And why they need to do that is there's a process. I mean, if you have to make a decision, then you have to be sure that, okay, well, this decision is supported by data and it won't fail because if you don't do that, you lose money, you make poor decisions or less quality decisions. And you lose resources, you lose effort, you lose time. So you need to go through that process. And, you know, there's a process of first gathering data, collecting data. So they come, maybe if there's a population census, they come to your homes and then they collect the data they need for that, your age, your how many people live, they ask questions. All these things help inform their decisions finally. After they've collected the data, they need to clean up the data, they need to refine it. Then they put it in R or any other analytical software to analyze it. It's important for it to be analyzed because they want to take out or they want to mine the data and find out what is hiding in there. Why is this that? Why? What are some of the things we won't see with just an overview, but in a guided version you will see. Then after they've done that, they visualize the data. The visual version is to help inform stakeholders or people who might be interested to fund your projects to be able to make sense out of the data. So if you say, okay, your pie chart shows that 70% of the people who live in, for example, Accra are female, then when you are doing projects, you should know that, okay, well, I have a lot of female people than male people, and my resources should go into maybe buying more female staff than male staff. So our decisions are based on the data you collected earlier. And if you don't do that, you end up buying, oh, Yento, or let's buy let's buy 50% of male and 50% of female. And you realize that, oh, you have short of female. You have a shortage of female because you have more female. And all of those things come at a cost and inconvenience because you didn't make decisions based on data. So sometimes you need to do that. And when you visualize the data, then your stakeholders and the people who are going to fund you, your bosses are going to see, okay, well, this is what the data is saying, or this is the story the data is telling. And that helps you. Then after you visualize the data, then you can conclude and make your decision. And that's why we need R. And we're doing a lot of interesting things with R, right from the basics through. So if you never studied programming before, don't worry. If you have learned programming in one language when you are switching to R or you want to add an R, that's fine. You go smoothly with that. Thank you for your time and thank you for staying with us. Bye for now.